Hi guys, my name is Caroline and I am a former student of Etty's. A few years ago, I was in your shoes creating my own final research project with my classmates Sam and Daniel. And Etty asked me to show you guys our project and how we went about presenting it. So without further ado, let's get started. So on our landing page, you will find our abstract, which we divided into 3 questions. How does the brain register color? How do colors evoke certain emotions? And how do directors use color? And then we also will talk about later in the presentation the 3 movies we chose, which was Amelie, My Life in Pink, and Pan's Labyrinth. So again, this is what our landing page looks like, and now I'll go into the first of 3 questions for our abstract. So once we click on how does the brain register color, you'll see a landing page that includes some graphics that we found online and further diagrams that illustrate how the brain psychologically registers color. So I'll kind of go through this quickly, but one thing we wanted to note was that the first important thing to know is that the objects themselves do not have color. It is instead the reflection of wavelengths that are registered as color by the human brain. So then we kind of go into further description about how this works, and that's why we included another diagram that kind of shows how the brain perceives color. We also included a section about rods and cones, which are 2 other vital cells that detect and respond to light. So while rods are activated when you are in an area that has low or dim light, cones, on the other hand, are stimulated when you are in much brighter environments. So again, because you guys have the link, feel free to go and read more about that in detail later on. I'm going to move on to the next question, which is how do colors evoke certain emotions? So the emotional responses to color are a product of 3 main causes: evolution, culture, and personal experience. So with each case, humans will differ more and more in their responses to certain colors, but a certain degree of shared experiences also means humans share some universal responses to color. Not case. And so we included this chart that shows some of the emotional triggers of color here in this rainbow diagram. So if you look at the color red, for example, you can often associate that with excitement, energy, passion, action, and desire. And with green, you can associate green with hope, growth, refreshing, balance, and reassurance. And again, we go into further detail about more examples of colors and what we associate them with. And we also included another diagram here with colors ranging from black to red to orange to yellow, etc. And so then we'll move on to our 3rd question in the abstract, which is how do directors use color, which is the bulk of our project. And again, I'll kind of skip over this because we talk about this later, but essentially the usage of color when intentional can range anywhere from extremely broad to very focused and specific. Each little way of evoking color in a film helps audiences think a certain way about scenes, places, characters, or actions. And again, more examples here at the bottom. So now we'll move on to the movie portion of this project. And just to reiterate, in order to split up our work evenly, we each chose to research one of those 3 research questions, and then we each chose a movie to analyze. So I chose Amelie personally because that's one of my favorite films. My friend Sam chose to analyze My Life in Pink, which I believe you guys watched in class, and if you haven't, maybe you will watch it in the near future. Last but not least, my friend Daniel chose to analyze Pan's Labyrinth. So I'll kind of show you how we organize each of these pages. I will say that we usually show the movie sections in class, but unfortunately, due to this new format, I cannot show it to you, but I would definitely recommend checking that out after you watch this presentation, just to get a better idea of the colors that we pulled from the scenes and just to get a better idea of our project overall. So the 3 colors I noticed in this film were green, red, and yellow. And here I included a brief introduction about the color archetypes and kind of how they choose to use archetypes to relay certain messages or symbolic meanings in the film. So they use colors to represent ideas, to add meaning to a piece of work without overwhelming the viewer, essentially. So now I have 3 different archetypes that we've seen at the beginning of the project. We have green, which can represent emotions related to jealousy, endurance, loyalty, rebirth. We have red, which represents romance, boldness, bravery, anger. And then we have yellow, which is often associated with being creative, sunny, playful, inspired, etc. So, what do these colors represent in Amélie? So, Amélie, directed by Jean-Pierre Jeunet, I apologize if I pronounce that incorrectly, is about a naive Parisian woman named Amélie, who seems to live in a world of her own. She's introverted and lives a quiet life to herself, but she indulges her whimsical mind by orchestrating the lives of those around her. Through learning the stories of those around her and helping her neighbors through their daily struggles, she manages to discover love along the way. So here we included screen grabs from the movie, which both obviously have very strong gradients of green in it. And here we have a description at the top about what that means in the movie. So green represents nature and hope throughout the movie. The green hues are not only soothing to the eyes of the viewer, but it also contrasts especially with the color red, which is perhaps the color that holds the most symbolism in the movie. Green is also often seen during scenes of nature and generally represents Amélie's calm nature that is evident throughout the movie. Even during the most dramatic scenes in the movie, Amélie still exhibits a sense of grace and composure. So here again we see those 2 screen grabs, and we continue to do that throughout the project. So now we move on to the color red, and obviously it's a love story, so you see the color red used a lot throughout the movie, especially in scenes like this when she's in her apartment. And red represents warmth, passion, energy, and love in the movie. These archetypes relate to Amélie's character because of the themes evident in the movie. She is a hopeless romantic and falls in love with a mysterious man, and red often represents passion and love. Her energy can also be represented through the color red. In all of the scenes of her childhood, red stands out in one way or another. From the opening scene of Amélie plucking red raspberries off her fingers, or in the nurse costume she wore during dress-up. This continuation of red accents throughout the movie also demonstrate how her childlike imagination never really escapes her. And we can see those touches of red in the apartment through those whimsical frames that kind of allude to kind of her childish side, and here we see more red continued in the next frame. And then last but not least, we have the color yellow. So yellow in this sense represents warmth and happiness and excitement in the movie. We see it in her apartment and in the streets of Paris. Although Amélie keeps her cool throughout the movie, it's evident that she's excited about this mystery man that she's falling in love with. And again, we can see those tints of gold in those street scenes. And they almost have a golden-like tint to them, which kind of further illustrates this idea of almost a surreal, fairy tale-like lens that Amélie sees her world through. And we also noted that it often replaces colors of white in the film. For example, even the walls and the items in the bathroom, which are typically white, are tinted yellow. And this could further show that Amélie is able to see beauty in the ordinary and everyday life. So now we're going to move on to the next section of the website, which is My Life in Pink, aka Ma Vie en Rose. And again, you guys may have seen this already in class, or if not, you may be seeing it in the near future. But there's a trailer in case you haven't seen it yet and you want to look at that later. So pink is obviously the main color in this film, and we often associate the color pink with spring, with love, happiness, joy, and femininity, which is, of course, the main reason pink is used in this film. So, what does this color represent in the movie? The color pink is at the heart of Ma Vie en Rose, or My Life in Pink, and it's a 1997 film directed by Elaine Berliner. So in this film, pink is used to represent gender identity, personal expression, and happiness. So again, we have screenshots from the movie here and a brief description of what pink means in the movie. So in My Life in Pink, the main character Ludovic wants to dress and be treated as a girl, but her family and community won't accept her gender identity. Berliner uses bright pastel colors like pink and yellow in Ludovic's dream sequences in which she is accepted for her chosen gender. And as noted by Columbia University, these colors are associated with happiness and life. So clearly here we see bright colors used in this screenshot, which Sam later used to compare this to some of the other scenes from the movie. So clearly the director used these bright colors in contrast with the duller palette of the rest of the movie to evoke a happier mood from the audience during scenes that are happy for the main character. So Berliner contrasts these bright pastel scenes even further in the film's most dramatic moments, such as when Ludwig's parents yell at her, and that's why we see these shots with muted colors and low lighting. And this gray color palette is more associated with sorrow and mourning, which matches the tone of these scenes. So in addition to evoking positive emotions, pink is also used in the movie because it is commonly associated with the female gender. So a study in visual communication found that pink is commonly used to categorize sexuality and sexual identity, which are both explored in Ma Vie en Rose. So the two uses of pink both signal the female gender and represent happiness, and those are combined when Ludovic wears a pink dress in the movie. And the movie ends with Ludovic in her dress, thus giving the film a happy ending. So that's one more screenshot again from the end of the movie. So that's what Sam did. And last but not least, we will move on to Pan's Labyrinth. So now, the last movie that we decided to analyze was Pan's Labyrinth. And this one is interesting because it actually has 4 colors that we noticed were very prominent throughout the film. And those 4 colors are green, blue, red, and gold. So I've kind of already touched on both green and red during my presentation of Amelie, so we'll focus on blue and gold. So blue we often associate with emotions such as calmness, serenity, stability, and cleanliness, versus gold we often associate with emotions related to success, wisdom, enlightenment, luxury, etc. So what do these colors represent in Pan's Labyrinth? So Pan's Labyrinth, directed by Guillermo del Toro, takes place in 1944 Spain and follows an imaginative young girl named Ophelia, an avid reader of fairy tales. After moving to a military outpost with her mother and sadistic father-in-law, army officer, she finds herself in a fairy tale of her own. A faun named Pan presents her with the opportunity to become immortal, and by completing her various tasks, she draws herself further from reality and deeper into her own fantasy. So here we have a screenshot of Ophelia in the forest, and green in this film again represents nature and curiosity in a way similar to what green represents in Amelie. So many of the scenes are shot during the day, and they're often cloudy and dimly lit, so when there's green in the shot, it really stands out. And again, this green color often is associated with Ophelia when she is alone, wandering through the forest and stumbling upon enchanted things. So through the green, we are able to see Ophelia's sort of fantasy world. Blue, on the other hand, and again, this shot, you can see a lot of blue being pigmented in the shot. Blue represents stability, reality, isolation, and trust in the film. Whenever a scene is shrouded in blue, it's often linked to the real world that Ophelia lives in, for better or for worse. And sometimes this can be a calm scene, but other times it can be a more horrific scene, like an army officer bashing in a farmer's head. So these scenes all ground Ophelia in the reality in which she's alone and misunderstood. And it's also a stable but unforgiving reality that she tries to escape. And in the final scenes of the movie, again, I won't try to give too much away, but we see a lot of red and gold, which work together to represent enlightenment, wonderment, and security in the movie. So we see a lot of red and gold shifts towards the end of the film, which often is associated with Ophelia's feeling of being alive and empowered towards the end of the movie in this fantasy world. And even when some of these scenes are more dangerous, like when she's escaping a baby-eating monster, the appearance of red and gold in the brick, the tapestries, or just the fireside lighting immediately makes the entire world warmer and more inviting. And it's here that Ophelia feels at home among the monsters and the creatures. So again, Pan's Labyrinth is a really great movie, and also a really great example of how colors can be used by directors in their films to convey meaning. So yeah, so that is the totality of our project. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I apologize I wasn't able to present this in person. But again, if you have any questions, I will give Etty my contacts, so please feel free to reach out to me, and I would definitely recommend using an interactive website for your project. So thanks guys, and have a great day.